In a few days or weeks, you're going to walk into school again. Same building, same subjects. But here's the scary part. You can change your timetable, your notebooks, your backpack, and still become the exact same student you were last year. The student who half listens during classes. The student who crams the night before an exam. The student who opens a book, then checks their phone 5 minutes later. The student who promises, "This year, I'll finally change," and then repeats last year's mistakes. But here's what nobody tells you. A new school year doesn't create a new you. Your old habits come with you. And if you don't change those, the new year will look exactly like the last one. So you have a choice. You can meet your old self in the same classroom again, or leave that version behind. Kill the automatic you. Think about how many things you do without deciding. You pick up your phone when studying gets boring. You avoid the hardest question. You leave difficult chapters for later. You probably don't even think, "I'm choosing to do this." It just happens. That's the problem. Your old self wasn't necessarily lazy, it was automatic. So don't try to become a completely different person overnight. Change what happens automatically. When studying starts, don't pick up your phone. When you don't understand something, don't escape to an easier task. When you feel resistance, you start anyway. Tiny changes, but repeated enough, they become your new default. Stop waiting for motivation. Your old self probably believed, "I'll study when I feel like it." But motivation is unreliable. Some days you'll feel unstoppable. Other days you'll want to do literally anything else. So here's the new rule. Your mood doesn't get to decide whether you start. You don't need to promise yourself 3 hours. Open the chapter, do one question, explain one concept, start badly. Because motivation often shows up after action, not before. The old you waited to feel ready. The new you starts anyway. And that sounds small, until you realize something. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, your brain gets evidence that it can trust you. And that creates something far more powerful than motivation. Confidence. Stop measuring yourself in hours. Last year you probably asked, "How long did I study?" And if the answer was 4 hours, you felt productive. But what if those 4 hours were mostly rereading? That's not 4 hours of learning. That's 4 hours of being busy. Your new question should be, what can I do without looking? Can you explain the chapter? Solve the question? Recall the formula? Because exams don't reward how long you sat at your desk. They reward what your brain can produce when the book is gone. And this is where your entire definition of studying hard changes. Become harder to distract. Here's a truth that might hurt. You don't need superhero-level discipline. You need fewer opportunities to fail. Your phone is always within reach. Notifications are waiting. One reel becomes 20. Then you blame yourself for having no focus. Your new self doesn't constantly fight temptation. He removes it. Phone across the room. One task open. Distractions harder to reach. Because the strongest students aren't necessarily fighting their brains better. They're making the wrong choice harder to make. And that brings us to the biggest upgrade. Stop trying to become a better student. This is the part I really want you to remember. Don't make your goal, get better grades. That's the result. Instead, become the student who does the things that make those grades possible. The student who starts before panic, who tests themselves instead of pretending they remember, who asks questions instead of hiding confusion, who studies even when the mood isn't perfect, who can sit down and trust themselves to finish. Because once that becomes your identity, good grades stop being the goal you chase. They become the consequence. That's the transformation. So when you walk into school this year, don't bring every habit from last year with you. Leave some things behind. Leave the endless postponing. Leave the "I'll start tomorrow." Leave the idea that more hours automatically mean better results. Leave the version of you who keeps making promises and breaking them. You don't need to become perfect. You just need to become different enough that next year's version of you looks back and says, "I'm glad I changed." Comment the date you're going to actually start the new you. Not next month. Not next week. A specific date. Make it real. If you're serious about becoming a completely different student this year, subscribe. And if you're starting a new academic year, I made another video that can help you build the system behind this new version of you. Watch that next. This year, don't just go back to school, go back different.